This one's gonna be fun. Yo, what's up? How are you? Welcome to Mitigating Madness. My name's Anthony, and this is Mitigating Madness. It's my little domain for right now, but hopefully it'll grow into something nice and even more beautiful than it already is. With that being said, today I'm trying something a little bit different. We're gonna put my reading skills to the test, so I apologize for yeah. Anybody who's ever heard public reading, no. Being said, this is a story that I actually heard originally through a podcast I love, which you should check them out right over here, the Belief Hole podcast. They kind of are like the new age coast to coast. I know coast to coast is still a thing, but it's not the same since art passed. Blessed be to you. It's not the same. Let's just be honest. They kind of run something similar. They have this awesome ability to connect with their audience and obtain these amazing stories. I know most, if not all, are submissions. This one I'm not entirely sure, but I did remember it, and so I didn't want to hear their episode again. It's been a while since I heard that one. I think it's on their Imaginary Friends episode, if I remember correctly. But I remember the name of it. So I'll get the link, as a matter of fact, and I'll put it down. I'm like 98% sure it's on their Imaginary Friends episode from quite a while ago. Like one of their earlier seasons. Anyways, this was a story that kind of... it didn't give me the chills so much as a sense of validation in some of the creepier things that I've seen growing up. It's an odd one. So I'll read through it. It's not too long, so you won't have to suffer with me trying to read for that long. But yeah, definitely check their rendition of the story as well, because they have an excellent production. And without their episode, I probably would never have heard of the story, at least not in this context. So, that being said, give me a minute. Let's see what we got right here. This was posted 5 years ago. What's the scariest story you heard a child tell about their imaginary friend? Posted by Professor _Dog, 5 years ago. Purple Mommy. When my son was first learning to talk, he would tell us about something called Purple Mommy. It could be an imaginary friend, but these details are a little bit creepy. Here's a few of the Purple Mommy details. Purple Mommy is all purple, with long hair and bright all-white eyes. At the time, he mixed up purple with black, so he could have meant she was all black. Purple Mommy picks him up at night and turns off the lights. He would often find my son out of his crib in the morning, which would mean him crawling over the railing and to the ground, at a time when he was barely walking. Definitely found the lights in his room off a few times too, even though he's terrified of the dark. Purple Mommy needs a bandage because she has blood everywhere. Yeah, I remember. I'm remembering this story now. Purple Mommy has no smile, meaning a mouth. Purple Mommy can take her head off. Purple Mommy really doesn't like Daddy. He told us all of this stuff for maybe a year or a little more. If we ever asked where she was, he'd always point to the same spot, a corner of the room behind his open closet door. Once, during a really rough night, my wife went to ask him what's wrong, and his answer was, Purple Mommy won't let me sleep. Huh. It looks like that's the end of the story. Like I said, quick story. Thank you for staying with me while I put my reading skills to the test right there. I know, they're amazing, right? Sue me, I didn't go to school for English literature or nothing. Okay, I went to school to paint. So be happy that I can even speak properly, somewhat. All right? Anyways. What the absolute fuck? I'm wondering what this entity could have been. I mean, are we talking about a tulpa? Are we talking about an imaginary friend? Are we talking about an interdimensional being, or possibly not necessarily a poltergeist, but like I think the Navajo say the chini or the chitney, something like that. No, chini. I think it's the chini. Excuse me if I'm getting that wrong. You know, I take in a lot of information. It's a matter of absorbing it all and maintaining it. But yeah, let's go with the chini. Maybe it's that. Until we get to the part where Purple Mommy has no smile, meaning a mouth. So what the hell does that mean? Is it flat face? Sorry, I think of things visually, so I'm thinking flat face, black eyes. She can take her head off and really doesn't like Daddy. That detail in of itself makes me wonder if we're talking about a human spirit. Maybe a tortured and mutated and angry and pained human spirit at that. But if she really doesn't like Daddy, she can take her head off and she needs bandages because she has blood everywhere. Maybe she was murdered. Maybe this is a victim of some gruesome attack. And if that's what this thing is the original, I don't know, let's call it Carol. Is the original Carol still there? Or maybe, like the chimney, she was separated upon death. All of her, let's say, untainted attributes go off into this afterlife, while this pained version of her, or not version of her, but these pained remains of her stay in this realm. I don't like to think that entities or anything are innately bad. I don't think any one is necessarily innately bad, but you know, it's part of the process. But maybe that's all it knows how to be. This part of her knows how to be, right? Maybe its purpose is to exact vengeance, or maybe its purpose is to not exact vengeance and so much more in the way of processing what she's been through. For that part of her to essentially heal. Once it does, maybe it dissipates, or maybe it is absorbed to form a fuller version of her in whatever realm that is, whatever you want to consider the afterlife, right? And maybe that's why we hear stories these days of spirits and old poltergeists that are no longer really active. It has to do something with that little theory, I guess, that I'm putting out. But it could also be that we are living in a Bluetooth environment, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi environment now, and electrical signals might be fucking up shit for the ghosts. So we might be killing our ghosts. Who knows? Or killing, right? Anyway, that's besides the point. What if Carol then is also a former resident of this house? It doesn't have to be, or maybe this land, that land right there. Maybe it isn't specifically that house, because I don't know if they mention where they're living, if it's an apartment or a house, and how, you know, how seasoned it is. People seem to think that once you destroy a building or once you destroy the statue, whatever the thing this thing is attached to, right, that it disappears. But for me, I'm like, well, the ground is part of that. If it's the structure, the ground is part of that. So maybe it's not as strong as it once was, as potent, but it's still there. And for a child to see it, I mean, children, I think, are closer to children and old people. Like, I mean, ancient, like artifacts. I believe are closer to that veil, to the other side of that veil, and because of that, because they're either just coming into life, physical life, or they're exiting. They're on their way out to exit the physical realm. Because of that, I think their eyes are somewhat, or their brains are somewhat refunctioning everything, or recalibrating everything to start accepting and seeing what is on the other side of the veil. And so maybe that's why this entity may not be as potent as it once was. And I'm just completely theorizing this because, again, this is just a short excerpt or a short story account. Yeah, a short account. But maybe in a weakened state, it can only really affect those who can actually interact with it, those who are closer to that veil. So maybe that's why these parents are not seeing it, at least from what I gather. But they are experiencing the effects of it. They are experiencing the physical remains in terms of lights being left on or turned on, their kid being carried. They may not witness the actual action of this spirit, of this being, but they will be able to witness and understand the impact. And so when they find their kid outside of his crib and they know that it's not possible, he's not walking, and he'd have to climb over a fence to fall out. Yeah, no, I mean, they're going to notice that. I feel like then the question would be like, well, why is it even there? Again, maybe it's the remnants of this so-called Carol. And he doesn't even realize that its reasoning is to understand its pain and understand what's happening to it. And that's me projecting, right? That's me putting that idea out there to even terms, because it could be something like that, and it doesn't even have to be about understanding what happened to Carol, to her. Maybe it's not about seeking justice per se, so much as understanding. And with understanding comes an ability to let go, right? Or to begin the process of letting go. It's interacting with a child because A, the child can see it, I'm sure, as well as the elderly, but B, it seems like maybe a motherly instinct. So it's just experiencing or trying to experience what it knew as a comfortable or normal existence as a human being when it was in the physical realm, when she was in the physical realm. I shouldn't say it. If that's the case, then how do you even begin to achieve that? I mean, in our world, in the physical realm, yeah, fucking therapy. And, you know, I'm happy about that. But for spiritual entities, I wouldn't even know where to begin. But that being said, they could be connected to something greater. That goes into near-death experiences that I do eventually want to talk about and everything, and the maybe human intelligence, non-human intelligence that's on the other side that seems to greet those who come back, at least, and live to speak about it. Maybe it's something like that. What's the thing? Everything is everything. Nothing's coincidental. I like that frame of thought, that frame of that state of being. Could be something like that, but I don't know. I'm just some dude in an apartment room surrounded by doodles trying to understand the supernatural. Am I gonna give you the answer? Probably not, but I'm happy to sit around and, you know, think out loud about it. In any case, I'm really enjoying this sort of approach, so I think I might try a couple more, and you know, maybe it won't be exactly this, because I also don't want to ape off of you know, I don't want to bite off of nobody's thing. They exist and they are great at what they do, so I want to exist and be great at whatever it is I do. But I think in order to achieve that, I am going to have to try a couple different things. And I really enjoyed this. It made me feel like maybe I was channeling a little bit of Art Bell in today's show. So with that being said, thank you again for stepping on into my world, to my little cave, and being here with me on this. I'm just going to ramble into the ether until something picks up or it doesn't. Either way, I'm finding this a little bit more on the cathartic side of things. So to those of you who are there, thank you. If you could do me a solid, like, comment, dislike even, subscribe, share it, shit. Check out the Instagram. I'll put that here or there or wherever. Stick around. We're going to be doing some fun things. And it's just me right now, but, you know, we eventually. That's been Mitigating Madness. See you next week.